So re-emphasizing, the PMP exam is around exam content outline, and we are focusing on the tasks which are coming from exam content outline. If you don't relate to what we are sharing here, you may want to visit pmi.org, go to a PMP certification and download PMP exam content outline, which is like a syllabus or a content outline for your PMP exam. The content outline is designed in the format of the type of tasks project manager is expected to do, because the PMI expects those are the tasks which will also get tested in the PMP exam. So it is a kind of, you can say, a typical project manager's description or a role description. We know that each context may require special skills, but in general, these are the 35 things which are commonly looked when the project managers are getting hired. And that's why PMI wants us to build those skills with the help of these tasks. So going forward, like getting insight, and we are focusing on task 7, which is about address and remove impediment, obstacle, and blocker for the team. It has various sub areas talking about determine the critical obstacle blockers, impediments, prioritize them, use your network and implement the solution to remove it, and keep reassessing those impediments on a continuous basis, so we have latest information about impediment, obstacles, and blocker for the team. So that's the topic. This particular topic is primarily related to adaptive way of working. Yeah, usually the term impediment comes with the adaptive touch, whereas the issues comes with a predictive touch. We do have a separate task talking about issues. Incidentally, that falls under process area, a process domain of our PMP exam content outline. But for practical purpose, we can say the impediments are type of issues. If you are new to say adaptive terminology, we can say that it's a type of issues which are more impacting the team, and as a project manager I need to do something about it. So let's learn how a project manager can deal with these types of issues which are creating problem for the team. So first, clarifying these three words. As usual, we go to our PM principles to make sure that we have a common understanding and we can relate whatever we are discussing in this task with the project management principles. So here we can clearly see the first task of our PM principle focuses on the servant leadership. We need to be respectful, caring stewards. It is primarily focusing on that we need to remove the problems which are coming in the way of our team. So that's something related to this particular task. Focusing on recognizing, evaluating, and responding to system interaction, maybe partially may come into impediment space. Demonstrating leadership, clearing the path of people, yeah, creating, engaging with stakeholders, being adaptive. So most of these things we can see from the perspective of impediment removal as well. Let's see what is impediment, and then possibly we can relate more with it. Now in the task you see three terms: impediments, obstacles, and blockers. We can understand that these three terms can be understood separately. There is a definition there, but for a practical purpose as well as from exam purpose, they are used more or less synonym to each other. So in general, whenever the word impediment is coming, you can think of that impediment could be a blocker type of impediments, which is blocking us from moving forward. But in general, impediment is something, a situation or condition that is slowing us down or creating delay in our progress. So say we have a goal and we want to reach there, and it is something, a rough surface, and we have to pass through that, and these things are making us slow. Our movement towards the goal is becoming slow. That's an impediment. Obstacle is that we have a road towards the goal, but there are some obstacles here, so we have to take a narrow lane in between, and which is creating little trouble, may not necessarily slowing us down all the time, but if we can remove this obstacle we can go fast. So barriers that we should be able to remove by so that we can go more smoothly towards the goal. The blocker is a type of impediment. If I say this is a goal, then I may have something which is not even letting me move forward. Yeah. So overall, my team wants to move towards their goal. It could be a sprint goal, it could be a release goal, it could be an overall project goal, and there are things which are creating trouble for us. So in general, impediment is slowing us down. The blocker kind of impediment is blocking us. An obstacle is in between, not necessarily slowing us down, but we are spending more energy for a work which could have been done in a simple way. Yeah, so that's also, it's a kind of wastage we are generating, and we should be improving it. As I said before, for an exam perspective, you can consider that whenever the word obstacle is coming, you can consider it an impediment only or a type of impediment which we need to take care of. Now let's look into the subtask one by one. So in general, what do I do? What do I do with these kind of problematic things, impediments which are coming in my team's way? So as we know, as a project manager, we first need to make the things clear. So identification of the impediment is the first thing I do. So I need to create various avenues where we keep discovering, is there something slowing us down? Or if something is slowing us down, the sooner we identify, the sooner we can solve it. So we need to put the process which can expose the impediments early and often, and sometime maybe a properly tracking over going forward, but only after identification we can do something about it. So I will identify it. After doing an identification, probably I have a place where I want to track it. So I need to record it. Record could be in the Kanban board or an issue log somewhere. So I have an impediment. There should be some place where I can record it. And after that, I need to do some assessment. Not each and every impediment is at the same level. Some impediments are impacting me more. Some are impacting me less. So I need to have some kind of process to do an assessment of those impediments involving my team, involving my stakeholders. And based on that assessment, I will prioritize it. Because as a project manager, my job is whenever I get set of things, I categorize them, I analyze them, I prioritize them, because there will be always a shortage of energy. I can't finish everything. So if I'm getting 10 impediments, probably I can't finish all 10. I need to have a process so that I can take care of few in the beginning and then rest we can take care later. So record, access, and then prioritize. After that, we act on it based on the priorities and the things which we are working on. We take actions and we keep tracking them. And this whole process continues. In a simple word, identify, analyze, act, and check the action results. Again, new identification and or the effectiveness of the action. This whole process is expected to be continued throughout our project life cycle. So this is like a first high level understanding of impediment circles. Now determine critical impediments, obstacles, and blockers for the team. So here I'm using adaptive lifecycle approach because that's the usual place where these terminologies will attach. We can say that we have a sprint, which is represented here, and we have a product backlog. On a continuous basis, I need to assess product backlog by way of doing backlog refinement meeting. If something can create problem for my team in the next month, in the next iteration or a sprint, I need to do something about it. So my project team may be having product owner as a leading this activity, but as a project team, we are continuously assessing what we probably will end up doing in upcoming sprints as a part of backlog refinement meeting, what kind of dependencies, what kind of risk, what kind of lack of clarity we have. And if those things are not resolved at a right time, we may have a problem when we want to take these items inside our sprint or iteration. So overall, with the process of backlog refinement, we need to identify the impediments. And impact of that could be the prioritization and refinement of our backlog which we are using. Once we move in our sprint planning, we are taking some part of backlog items which we believe we can finish in a given sprint. That is also a place where we can discuss what are the impediments which we have in order to achieve our sprint goal. What kind of possible risk which may get converted into impediment when we are moving in our particular sprint. So now when we are talking about sprint planning, our view of impediment is a current sprint goal, current iteration goal, so current 2 weeks work. Whereas when we were talking about product backlog refinement, our view for impediment could be long term as well, maybe beyond 2 or 1 sprint. So in a sprint planning or iteration planning, we identify if something needs to be taken care and we put it at a visual place, probably in a Kanban board or somewhere. And on a daily basis, real-time basis, we need to see where we are. And if we discover new impediments, we need to put it on our Kanban board again. In our Scrum way of working, we also have another meeting, which we call daily stand-up or a daily Scrum meeting. That's another place to discover the impediments. So if some team member is stuck, they don't have to wait for a daily stand-up to raise the impediment. They should raise it then and there and put it on a Kanban board or someplace. But daily stand-up or a daily Scrum is the another opportunity. That's the important point to keep in mind for an exam perspective, is another opportunity to think critically. Is there something blocking me from achieving my sprint goal? So After doing the planning, if we have identified some of the possible problems, we are taking care of them, we are working on them on a day-to-day basis. If we discover something, we put it then and there, and in a daily stand-up, we discuss with each other, the whole team, and they may talk about if there are risks or impediments which are coming for a current sprint goal. And this way we continue, and then we are finishing our sprint review or sprint retrospective. During the sprint review, we may identify some of the impediments which can block our future progress, and again it will go as a feedback to our backlog refinement meeting. So that's a good identification place. And similar in a sprint retrospective also, for a process, for a technical part of it, if something is slowing us down, can also get identified, and that may also go with the help of a backlog refinement and ultimately comes into the backlog, and we need to take care of those actions. So during the sprint, we can say the daily stand-up is the best place to keep identifying the current sprint level impediments and plan them on a regular basis. And the iteration review, iteration retrospective, and the product backlog refinement is a continuous process where we discover our futuristic impediments. Yeah. So these are the possible places where you identify impediments when we are talking about our, say, adaptive way of working. Now, once they are identified, I need to put them somewhere. Yeah. So prioritize critical impediment, obstacles, and blocker for the team. That's the one subtask, and continuously keep reassessing continuously how the priorities are right, and overall tracking of those impediments are right. So as we discussed in our previous content, we need to record. So one of the default place to record impediment is your Kanban board. And this particular thing should also work as an information radiator. We can say that information radiator is a place where you put some critical info which can keep giving you the latest information about what is happening in your project environment, so that stakeholder has a common understanding. So you record the impediments maybe as a board, or maybe as and that board can work as an information radiator. You may have a separate list or a board. You may call it impediment log or a board. That is also okay. You can use our traditional artifact called issue log to record the impediments. Yeah, so that is also perfectly okay. So if you have a question which is a hybrid life cycle question, it talks about there is an impediment and talks about an issue log, you don't feel shy recording your impediment there, because you keep in mind the impediments are type of issues which need to be taken care because they are slowing us down. And overall, wherever you record, be it on Kanban board or be it on impediment board, you need to update it regularly. So as a project manager, I need to ensure the progress on that impediment is updated to a place it is recorded. And if we have a new impediment, then also it is getting updated. If some of the impediments are closed, they are no longer relevant, it also has to be updated, so that people and the team is aware where we are and when this particular impediment is going to get resolved. So there should be a continuous update on it. Assess, yeah, overall from an exam perspective, if I have a 3 impediments, how do I identify which one is more critical for me? Yeah, sometimes the question indicates, sometimes you need to make your judgment. Your first judgment is which of these impediment is impacting my project objective more. Don't get carried away. It will just delay us. It will make more money. It will cost us more money. Yes, there is a possibility the schedule adherence and the cost adherence could be a part of our project objective, but I need to focus on more if the project goals and project values impact is clearly visible in some of the options. So based on whatever work we have, I just don't always follow the timelines. Sometimes we want to deliver on time. Sometimes we want to deliver with best quality, because maybe the flexibility is available on the time, but not flexibility is available on the quality. So depending upon the question, I need to take a call, but in general, it should be driven by our project objective. Yeah, so I need to focus on them. Impact on other backlog items, we need to assess if this thing is blocking how many items. The more the number of items getting impacted, and that also might be a higher value item, then the impediment may become more critical. We need to keep doing reassessment. So where you do all your Scrum events, as we discussed before. So in your backlog refinement process, in your iteration planning process, in your daily stand-up process, in the daily stand-up is basically focusing on the current sprint related impediments, and the iteration reviews, retrospectives, and backlog refinement is focusing on futuristic impediments which might be blocking us in future. So we need to do continuous assessment of it. The another important point from an exam perspective, don't think of doing the whole assessment you alone. Yeah? Whenever you get an option that you need to involve the team, it's a great idea, because the basic assumption we take, that team is more capable on understanding what are the impacts. Yeah? The product owner may understand the business value impact, the technical team may understand the technical impacts. So I need to bring them on board rather than I as a project manager will keep prioritizing impediments. So I need to ask them which one out of these is impacting you the most. I may ask cross questions to them, but their opinion matters a lot. So when I'm assessing, if I get an option where I can take a view from the team, it's a great idea in general. I need to categorize them so that I can understand which are the one which I need to discuss more with the product owner, which are the one I need to discuss with the stakeholder, which are the one which might involve more and more team members. So we categorize these impediments. We need to review the previous attempts. That's our mainly a retrospective thing. So on a continuous basis, we need to see what we have done to achieve or resolve this particular impediment and how that has impacted or helped us. And if it is not helping us, we need to find a better way of resolving. So it is not a one-time job, as you realized. So we record it, we continuously keep assessing it. As a project manager, you can assume that every alternate day or every day I need to do a kind of recap of all these impediments, and I need to prioritize and see some of them need to be resolved early. The priorities can change. Some impediment may not be that critical today, but tomorrow, because of some event, they may come up as well. So exact frequency may vary, but in general, from exam perspective, you understand that I need to keep them updated all the time. Prioritize. So that's overall. So the basic understanding of our project management is continuous prioritize and continuous reprioritize. And prioritized should be done with the help of more clear understanding with the set of clear example and by engaging the teams. Yeah? So that's something. So you may have an impact analysis, you may understand the stakeholder views, and based on agreed working agreement, as you agreed in your overall project management plan, if that is visible there, you prioritize the impediments. Now, most likely you will not get a question that who prioritize impediments. Yeah, most likely not. But ultimately, it's your accountability to get it prioritized as a project manager. That's we can clearly take it because it's a servant leadership goal. But you may not be the one who is responsible for doing it, which means you might need expertise which is coming from the team. Teammate tells this is the one which is slowing us down the maximum. But ultimately, after putting all the integrated view, you are the one who should facilitate the prioritization. So you can say not necessarily I do it myself, but I ensure that there is a clear prioritization because accordingly I can put my energy. So that's a generic, simple explanation about your impediments and their prioritization. Now, this one is little specific. The exam content outline is saying that you need to use network to implement solution to remove impediment, obstacle, and blocker for the team. So in a simple word, here we are coming as a servant leadership goal. So you can say I have a team, and this is like a team, yeah, and they are sprinting. They are team members here. They are sprinting and they want to roll and achieve a goal. Yeah, that's something they want to achieve. And there is something which is blocking them from rolling next. Yeah? Or slowing them rather than blocking them. If it's this much, then it might block them. After a few months, you see that if this thing is not removed after 1 month, they will get blocked. This thing might be like troubling them. They need to put more energy to overcome that. So such kind of impediments and blockers are coming in the way. My role as a servant leader is that I need to clear the path. I need to make sure that when my teams are coming in, the tracks are well formed and all these blockers are taken care, and I should be creating an environment so my team gets a smooth surface so that they can achieve the goal with minimum energy, and they should focus on doing their work, and I should be focusing as a project manager on clearing the path. Yeah. So the servant leadership goal gives you a responsibility and accountability of clearing the path. Yeah. Which means if there is a question which talks about there is an impediment, what should you do? And the one option talks about you will tell the team to work more hard to resolve that impediment. That's a bad idea. You as a project manager should take the maximum responsibility and accountability of resolving those impediments so that team can focus on their current work or their project work. Yeah, that's something you need to keep in mind as a servant leader. Now, I give some pointers here for exam perspective. You always work with the team. Yeah, that's there. But you should be shielding rest of the team so that they can focus on their work and you can focus on cleaning up the roadway for them. So they have a pathway and they are working on something. They will come there tomorrow, day after, or after a week. but you are something running ahead and saying that at least the pathway should be clear so the team can come and move forward and do their work. Yeah, so that's something new. You have a clear accountability of keep the impediment visible. You need to focus on following up with the stakeholders and communicate with them. So here there are some specific tasks which we can expect from the project manager as an impediment removal, and these tasks are appreciated tasks for your exam perspective. Yeah, if you see these are the terms, you can choose them. There is a more likelihood of these tasks are getting right. So let me explain one by one. These orange stickies, yes, you need to continuously retrospect and lesson learns about impediments. So whenever you have a confusion, try to work with a single point of contact. You can say that we have a coordination issue with the other team. It's a good idea to identify a single point of contact from my team as well as with other team if that thing is happening. And most likely the PM will become a single point of contact. So you can say as a project manager, I want to be a single point of contact for all communication related stuff. I need to ensure I continuously follow up with the vendors and external stakeholders as per my communication agreement. So whenever you see that continuous follow up is needed from another team so that dependencies are resolved, continuous follow up is needed for procurement group. So you should be taking this follow up work. Communication and follow up which help in resolving the impediment, you take that work on yourself. The another thing which is coming very clearly here, use network to implement solution. Here it is stressing on that you should be having your stakeholder networking. You should have a good collaborative relationship with the stakeholders, and you should be influencing and working. You should apply your leadership skill, which is all about influence. And with the help of influence, you should clear the pathway for our team. Yeah. So if you have a question which says, what should you do as a project manager to help the team moving forward? And you see there are options which is indicating that I will work with the other stakeholders, I will negotiate with them, I will work and influence them to achieve a particular work. You go with that, because as a project manager you are expected to work and network with the stakeholders so that our team can move forward without interruptions. So it's a small topic in a way, but can give you 2-3 questions because it is more a people domain idea. And in general, the expectation from project manager is that you deal with these things on a day-to-day basis. Yes, if you have a scrum master visible in the example or in the question, you definitely try to delegate as much as impediment removal work for that particular team is associated to a scrum master. So you are okay if the scrum master is taking care of team level impediments. But if you don't see that particular option available, then you take the responsibility of servant leadership yourself. So in a simple way, you can say that if I have a scrum master, I can say I will teach that person as a servant leader and make sure that person is taking the maximum accountability responsibility for resolving impediments. If I have a scrum master in my team, and I might be having bigger team, I may have more than one scrum masters or other things as well. If that thing is not visible, then I am the one who is taking care of team level impediments with the same passion and the same accountability. If I have a scrum master and I see the scrum master is unable to do it, then the impediment get escalated to me, I resolve it myself. So I can mentor and coach the scrum master to become better, but at this point in time I work with the stakeholders and try to get it resolved. So it depends upon the options, especially for a scrum master part of it, but in general you take a servant leadership stance in order to remove the impediments. Yeah. So that's it. That's the whole idea about this particular task.